is Thursday, September 4th, 2025, 9 a.m. You're at a Marathon County Infrastructure Committee meeting with a quorum present. We have Supervisor Hardinger online, as well as Dickinson and Jensen in the room. We have a quorum. So we will move on to item 2 on our agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on the agenda was public comment. We have one pre-registered citizen for public comment. First up is Dave Baker. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm David Baker. I live at 690 Happy Hollow Road in Kronewetter. I'm a resident of Kronewetter and also the village president. And I'm commenting on item B3, County Road XX and Pine Road intersection modifications. And I want to thank the committee and the county board for conducting the safety study and looking at this intersection. The village has provided several opportunities for our residents to provide feedback. And Kevin Lang attended a village club meeting to answer questions about the study and hear from our residents. And the vast majority of the feedback that I have received has been supportive of adding all-way stops at the intersection as an incremental safety improvement. And I also support that, adding those four-way stops, all-way stops. So that was just wanted to let the committee know what the feedback from the residents were. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Do we have anybody else that wishes to provide public comment? Seeing a lack of public comment or a lack of public in the room, we'll move on to item 4, excuse me, approval of the August 7th, 2025 Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes. We have a motion by Dickinson, a second by Jensen. Further questions, comments on the August 7th meeting minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed?
Aye.
All right, we have unanimous approval of our August 7th, 2025 Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes. We are on to item 5, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. 5A, discussion and possible action by infrastructure. Item number 1, discussion regarding 2026 annual budget development and policy recommendations from the committee, including review of the mandatory discretionary program document and discussion of rates and fees. I'll hand it over to Administrator Leonard.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything prepared, just it's the recurring agenda item for all of the committees in the event you had any questions or comments.
Questions or comments from anybody on the committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item. Item 5B, discussion and possible action by infrastructure to forward to county board for consideration. B1, opposing increases in truck size and weight. So this is an item that was forwarded to me by Chair Gibbs. It's something that the counties association, as well as I think it's the towns association, has been looking at. From my understanding, this is something that's come up every couple of years as Congress is looking at different changes. I did pass out, it wasn't in the packet, the 2025 version of the proposed, I guess, letter to the chairs, or this would be to the, would be Infrastructure Committee or Transportation Reauthorization. I think it's pretty simple to understand that bigger, heavier trucks are going to do more damage to our roadways. We all know about the funding issues that we have in trying to keep our infrastructure up, so it makes sense. Questions, comments? Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you. So I was looking at the letter from 2023. There's a lot of individual members, different counties. Were these full county boards that oppose this, or are these committees of boards? I know we've had that discussion before about, and so then I would relate it to us. Is this something that this committee is going to, say, support, and then it's going to the full board? Because I would have an issue if it's individual members or if it's just this committee.
So the way it was presented via email was there's an opportunity for anybody to sign on to it. I think it's best for us to take it through the full county board and have United Front as the county board supporting this. If the chair has any other thoughts on it?
No, it because of the surface transportation reauthorization that's coming up this year, there's a potential push again to increase the weight in trucks and authorization. And so there's been opportunities by a coalition for individual supervisors to weigh in, but also it is available to, and I thought it important that the full board weigh in then I would weigh in as chairman of the board on behalf of the Marathon County Board if the county board were to support the resolution.
Questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to recommend approval onto county board. We have a motion from Jensen. Second by Dickinson. Further questions or comments on the letter opposing increases in truck size and weight? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? We have unanimous approval. I heard a second aye on there. Do we have Supervisor Vole?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Attendance will be noted as such. We are on to item B2. Disposition, excess right-of-way, county truck, highway P, Town of Old Plain. I'll hand it over to Kevin.
Okay. Thank you. This one was on your agenda earlier this year. There was, Lance is scrolling through the packet there. Back in 1954, Highway P was modified a bit to have a curve built into it. And then in 87, the church had purchased the excess right-of-way that was north of the curve. In reviewing it, our understanding is that the intention was to sell everything from the church property down to the highway right-of-way, but the description was written up as the 40 line, which is 33 feet short of it. So there's the exhibit in there that shows this rectangle that's kind of like right in the middle of their parcel. We didn't feel that there would ever be any intention to keep that as county-owned land, and it was just written incorrectly. So we had our staff recommendation, and there was to, the three options were to keep it, try to sell it off at fair market value, or do a quick claim deed for the property and then have the church take care of all the title work on it at their expense. So our recommendation was to correct this by doing a quick claim deed over to the church, the landowner, and then have them take care of the expenses, because our belief is that that was the intention when this was sold back in 1987, I think it was.
That makes sense. I think that, coincides with our past practices as well. Any questions, comments from the committee? Otherwise, I take a motion to recommend this on to county board. Motion by Jensen. Second by Dickinson.
I'll second.
Well, we got Dickinson already. We'll jump in earlier next time. We have a motion and second for the disposition excess right-of-way county truck P in the town of Old Plain. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed? All right, we have unanimous approval of B2. We're on to item B3, County Road XX, Pine Road intersection modifications. I'll hand it over to staff.
This one again was also on your agenda earlier this year. In March, we had JT Engineering do a study of this intersection. This is a two-way stop where the east-west traffic stops and the north-south is through traffic on there. Their study found that in 2024, the amount of crashes that occurred that could have been prevented with an all-way stop or roundabout or signals exceeded or met the requirements to meet the warrants to change the intersection configuration here. Their report initially had 3 incremental steps with it. One would be to purchase some real estate and do some clearing just to improve visibility and leave as is. The next one would be to change to an all-way stop. And then furthermore, you could look at a roundabout in there. The landowners that we met with out there, they had intentionally planted rows of trees and shrubs to be a vision buffer between their house and the intersection. They were not in line with us purchasing a 1/4 acre, which would probably be kind of a minimal amount of money they would have in clearing those trees out. When I talked with the CLIP committee with the Village of Kronewetter, the people on their committee were also kind of nodded in agreement that they would not like that if they were the landowner as well. So we looked at the all-way stop. We meet the warrants for that. The cost-benefit ratio, which is a formula that gets used through DOT Highway Safety Program, comes out to the benefit over cost is 106.9 for the all-way stop, and it's 2.6 for the roundabout option, and that's related to the cost. The all-way stop prevents nearly as many accidents as the roundabout does at this configuration, and it has a cost in the $20,000 range, and the roundabout would be about $1.3 million. What we're recommending is to go ahead with the all-way stop, implement that, and then monitor this intersection down the road to see if further measures are warranted.
Thank you, Kevin. I think that makes sense. In the short term, when you do something, because there is a lot of local traffic there, so you have a lot of just ingrained behaviors of people, do you do for a certain period of time where you do some type of excess flagging or anything on that so people really catch the eye that there is a new stop sign there?
Yes, our intention would be to put the flashing LED stop signs up there. We would do the double stop ahead with flags on it, and then we also have some temporary rumble strips that can go down. So we would install those about 250 feet in advance of the stop ahead signs. And it would just be, they wouldn't be permanent, they just glue down. If anybody drove up north on 51 between like Merrill and Tomahawk a couple of years ago and rode over those orange rumble strips out there, that's very similar to what we had. And they held up the traffic on 51 for a good part of the summer.
I think that's good. I mean, it's just local traffic and people don't, it's easy to forget. And you've done something your entire life and all of a sudden there's a stop sign there. Questions, comments from the committee? Supervisor Jensen.
Thank you. Just one question for the stop sign coming from Pine. That one is not an illuminated one, and I'm curious on, with the crash data, if there were any accidents that the traffic was coming from Pine.
I think there was one there. The initial table showed 2 of them, but one of them was an error. It was on the other side. The reason why we didn't include that in the plan is just because that's local traffic. Those are the commuters coming from the neighborhood, and they've been used to that stop sign as long as that intersection's been there. So you're getting on the county highways, you get more frequency of people that are coming through less frequently or for the first time. So that's why we installed the flashing ones on there. The traffic volumes are also significantly less on that Pine Street.
Makes sense. Could I get a motion to move forward with implementation of the all stops? Oh, questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, so on the when we're talking about the tree removal and bushes and such, how much of that growth is in our right of way?
In this particular instance, the landowner actually did a really good job and planted the stuff back onto their property. There really is minimal, if any, that's crossing over the right-of-way line. Other times, landowners do put a tree right on the property line, and then when we are clearing, we have to go and trim their branches off on one side. But this landowner actually did plant most of that over. I think we're seeing more shadows in there in that imagery. When we've looked at it, they're pretty much at the property line with where the limbs are extending.
All right, because when I'm sitting at the intersection of Pine going, I guess it'd be going east, crossing double X going on to X. If you look to the right, it seems to me that there's, I don't know what kind of a grass they call it, but it's that tall grass that's like 6 feet tall or whatever. And I would swear that that's in the right of way, right by that telephone pole that's down there. I'm not right at this X, but just a bit off to the right. which is where you look when you're looking to the south to see what's coming up southbound Lenex or northbound Lenex. I'm just, my concern is I'm just really against the four-way stop, and I think that people are going to be, they don't understand a four-way stop sign. For some reason in this area, there's a stop sign over on Terabonne and Double X, and it's just a single stop sign like the one over on Pine, but yet people treat it as a four-way stop. So you got people that are turning left in front of people that have the right of way. So I don't know if there's any way we can do some kind of a intervention or update on how to operate at a four-way stop. I just personally, I don't think the people in this area really understand that concept.
I think that one would be a challenge to kind of reach out and catch the people that aren't executing through them properly. Enforcement would be one option. Unfortunately, that's usually the method that you end up going if people aren't following the traffic laws, is to
Right.
getting word out there through law enforcement.
So Kevin, question for you on, does the county have any requirements for vision triangles in terms of, I know there's right of way, but there's also sometimes restrictions on what can be planted in a vision triangle, even though it's on private property?
That will go through zoning, which Cornwater, I believe, has their own zoning.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be something to look into in terms of local regulation on that. I'm familiar with what Supervisor Voll's talking about in terms of, talk about Pine Road as well as Kowalski further to the south there. At times there's issues with vision triangle that's outside of outside of what the county can do with maintenance of vegetation in that area. So that's something additional that could be done. It's outside our control here with the county and the committee though.
Yeah, and we can look into that
Okay.
tall grass out there too.
All right, thanks.
Further
That's
questions,
fine.
comments? Otherwise I'd look for a motion. A motion from Jensen to move forward with the four-way stop. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, is that Hardinger?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Randy, can I get one more comment in?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Kevin.
In looking at this in the past, this was something that we would often have in our code, and Corp Council has recommended that either we update the municipal code with it or resolution. So if approved, we would look to add a resolution to the county board packet.
I assume that would also include an ordinance because if somebody then runs the stop sign, that's how they would be cited.
Yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second to move this on to county board, full county board with an all stop sign implementation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
All right, we have a 4-1 vote with Voll in opposition. We'll move that on to county board. Next is resolution, or B4, resolution authorizing the commitment of highway reserve funds for a new highway facility. Turn it over to, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this item and the next one are effectively the continuation of the conversations and planning around the potential new highway facility. In particular, this resolution, just to clarify, in terms of the language, the commitment is accounting language that is going to help treat the funds within the highway reserve in a certain way. And so I wanted to point out that it's not an authorization to spend the funds. It's essentially creating a pool. And by that, I mean that committing funds doesn't mean that they can't be uncommitted at a later date if it was needed. But what committing the funds actually does is on the finance side, it cleans up the reserve, the highway reserve, to show where these funds are in relation to other categories within the highway fund. And so, like, you've got working capital, you've got equipment pieces, and Sam can speak in more detail to the different categories within that. It effectively restricts the funds for that purpose, but then for the facilities point of view, what it does is it also creates the project's funding pool, so that as the county is going to take steps to move forward, then there's a pool of funding that we can draw from rather than having things being done out on the site and then having questions about, well, where's the funding come from? So it cleans that up on that side of things as well. The $30 million in the resolution, this was a number that was arrived at after finance, myself, the highway commissioner, and Mary at Highways as well. We all met to look at those various categories within the highway reserve that I alluded to. And we arrived at the $30 million figure by effectively saying that this is a number that we can commit to this purpose, clean up the reserve fund so there's a clear articulation of how those funds play out, but then also it doesn't impact the other categories. So you have what you need in the other categories of the highway reserve while also committing these funds towards the potential use for the highway facility.
Questions, comments from the committee? Since something we've talked about frequently in the past. Part of the purpose of having the reserve funds is, I think, was always the intention of putting them towards this project. So questions, comments? Vice Chair Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only, I think the big concern was kind of toward your comment there about, where the money came from and what it was always to be intended for and at what point. That kind of wrapped around with the vehicle registration fee / wheel tax, comments that were made in several meetings. But I will say, regardless of that, I do think it is a good financial decision to use reserve funds to reduce the cost of borrowing. Thank you.
Further questions, comments from the committee? Hearing, seeing none, I would take a motion to move this on to full county board. Motion by Dickinson.
I'll second. Randy.
Second by Vohl. We have a motion and second to move the resolution authorizing the expenditure of the highway reserve funds. Oops, I'm on the wrong item, sorry. No, I'm on the highway reserve funds for new highway facility, sorry. Any further questions, comments? Hearing, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, we have unanimous approval for item B4. We're on to item B5, resolution authorizing expenditure of highway reserve funds for phase 1 design services for a new highway facility. Handed over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that you asked about potential project updates in terms of where we're at. And Troy Torgerson is the lead project planner on this for the county and for facilities. So he's here to answer those questions and can provide a broader update. But essentially, this resolution is getting at where we are at in the process, which includes a site plan approval. And in order to get a site plan approval, you need a schematic design. So the schematic design, well, we conducted an RFP, I should say. There was a winning firm. The schematic design cost from that firm was $29,500, which is realistically a very competitive and relatively inexpensive cost to get to the point of where you can get a clearer, better focus on where we're at in terms of costs and whatnot. There's additional funding within the resolution. That's for county side costs within the process. That could include soil boring. There are structures on the site that we would want to test for asbestos to see if there was anything there. Costs like that we would be paying for on our side as a part of that schematic design process. Ultimately, it does what the schematic design gets you. We've been talking about it at a very high level in terms of we think it's around this ballpark. The schematic design gets you a much more focused look on what does the project cost really look like. And folded within that is we'll conduct an RFP for a construction manager at risk as well. And that's essentially the third member of the project team. And what they bring to the table with the design informing it is real world cost estimation. And while they are going to be more focused on construction if it were to occur, bringing them in earlier gets everybody on the same page, so that minimizes change orders. It also helps to inform the design in terms of maybe there's ways to do something differently because of what they're seeing in the real world in terms of costs or materials or supply chain issues. And also bringing them in at an earlier phase is similarly very inexpensive. So it would probably be about the same or less than what we see here for the schematic design cost. So from the county's perspective, the funding that this resolution would authorize would get the schematic design phase moving. It would get us, we would bring on a construction manager at risk, and then, like I said earlier, provide that focus so that then the conversation can look at, okay, what are we actually seeing in terms of timeline, cost, supply chains, all the issues that you'd want to have a clear sense of answers to for next steps. And, and within the resolution, I mentioned too that, this is an iterative step process. So this is like the very first sort of baby step, if you will, in actually taking on the project. So after that was complete, we would have another discussion at this committee and county board about, okay, there's a design document phase. And then if we continue to move forward, there's another stop where you'd say, okay, now we're at a construction document phase. And then potentially there's another step to say, here's the guaranteed maximum price after we've done all this work over the course of, X amount of time, to bring that back to the board and committee so that they have a greater sense of what the project means, how much it costs, what we're looking at. And within that same window of time, we would be looking at any other questions that come up along the way in terms of funding or just issues that might pop up here or there. So this is, like I said, step one, authorizes us to get to that next phase, which better informs the discussion for all of you.
Questions, comments from the committee? Thank you for the explanation. I'm looking at that price thinking that seems very reasonable from my experience in trying to get these type of services.
It is. I mean, the responses that we got, the costs, some of them were in the six figures, some of them were mid six figures. So it's really, the firms had different approaches to how they, bid that RFP. And so this one, although they were the winning proposal overall based on fee percentage, this was also, as a subset of their proposal, significantly lower than others in terms of getting that first work done.
Questions, comments from the committee? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to move this resolution onto full county board. Motion by Jensen.
I'll make that.
Do we have a second online?
I'll take a second.
Is that Hardinger or Vol?
Hardinger.
Hardinger with the second. Thank you, sir. Further questions, comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding the full the resolution authorizing expenditure of highway reserve funds for phase one design services for a new highway facility onto the full county board, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? We have unanimous approval of the resolution. We are on to item 6, educational presentations and committee discussion. 6A, commissioner report on highway parcels. We'll hand it over to our new highway commissioner. That's you, Kevin.
Yeah, you stumped me with the highway parcels. It's highway projects. I'm like, I had more parcels to discuss? The highway projects.
Sorry.
So I have a memo in there with what our crews are doing. We're wrapping up on paving right now. We're still working on culvert projects to get ready for next year. And guys out, they have a handful of spots they're still mowing at. We had to wait for some of the state construction to wrap up, and they're cleaning up some of those. And then we're starting to do some brush cutting and some more heavy duty cutting other than just grass. And I think our last thing, our bridge crew is out doing polymer overlays. That's the protective overlay of like the little small stones that get put on. Those are meant to keep kind of the salt and the moisture out of the decks and preserve them and make them last longer. Our shop is working on getting things geared up for winter. In addition to our normal truck harnessing for this year, we have 14 trucks that we're getting ready to have more brine capacity. So we have tanks ordered for those, and we're working to get the spray bars and the pumps hooked up to those and get those ready for winter. We also have 4 trucks right now that we were hoping to have for this winter, so we're meeting up with some of the manufacturers and seeing if we can accelerate a couple of those, because some of our spares are getting pretty old. They're over the 20-year mark, which is which is right up there for trucks. We're putting a lot of repair money into those, and we like to get those replaced as quick as we can so that we're not putting large amounts of money into keeping trucks running that have little salvage value. So any questions on that or what's in the memo?
Questions, comments from the committee? Overall, how has the transition been?
It's been good. We had a couple nice lunches with, we had our shop foreman, our shop supervisor. His last day was Tuesday. Jim left at about 1:30 yesterday. I received about double the emails that I used to, so this will be a busy fall. We have LRIP kicks off right now, so we do the administration for cities, villages, and townships, as well as our own applications for LRIP money. The rural STP, which is the federal grant money for roads, just came out, and that is due at the end of October. And then the STP Bridge program just came out as well, and those are due at the end of October as well. So usually Jim and I used to split those up, so this will be a busy next 8 weeks here.
Absolutely. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, thank you for your report. We're on to item 6B, CCIT projects. Mr. Jerry Klein.
Good morning. There's a project report in your packet. We're busy just like everybody else. I guess the short answer, there's updates in there. The couple of highlights. There's a large Windows 11 release that we are starting to roll out. It's unusually large in that it's taking an hour and a half to, in some cases, to run. So been communicating to staff about that needs to get pushed down. That we have to have all of our 2,300 computers that we manage done by November 10th, which sounds like a long ways away, but it's actually not, because when you run those releases, usually 20 or 25% of the computers don't get the release, and so you have to go chase those down, figure out if they're in a closet, they haven't been turned on, if they went to someone's house and they're offline, if they got deleted and didn't get properly managed in the database. So that's what I was just working on before this meeting, getting an update on that. Other projects we got going on, there's a couple of different follow-ups on the Forensic Science Center. There's the software that they bought to work. They're having some problems with it, so Kelly on our team has been working with them. There's some follow-ups I need to do with Troy on some camera stuff there. I'll catch them after the end of this meeting. And then they're working with Michael on trying to get a contract in place for another piece of software that they need called a PAC system. Last week I signed a contract with CDW to upgrade our phone system. We're going to be moving it from an on-premise Cisco system to their cloud solution. So the kickoff for that project is next week. Probably like all of the other department heads, spending a lot of time on budget for 2026. I'm meeting with Lance later this morning, and with the mayor this afternoon. And then last but not least, also related to budget, our team is working quite a bit with the finance departments on the Workday budgeting software with Adaptive, and then the product called Gravity, which is also in use. And then last but not least, there's always fiber stuff going on because it's construction season still. And we had a fiber cut, and we have a legal issue with a piece of fiber that got put onto someone's, inside of someone's private property. So that ends up taking a little bit of attention as well. Any questions on any of our projects?
Go ahead, Supervisor Dickinson.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So are there any issues with any PCs not being able to update to Windows 11 because they have insufficient storage space?
We're already on Windows 11 with exception of I think
okay.
there's 20 computers that are on Windows 10, and those have all been researched pretty extensively. They're really unusual ones. Usually they're in a closet and off of our network now.
Okay, cool.
So
Thanks.
typically. But this is the 24H2 release of Windows 11, which is the one that's been giving us some heartburn.
Further questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you for your report. We're going to move on to item 7 on the agenda. Next meeting date and time, announcements and future agenda items. 7A, committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion as always. And 7B, our next regular meeting will be Thursday, October 2nd, 2025 at 9 a.m. Sounds like there will be probably a need for a special meeting, talk about bridge aid. Kevin, if you want to just talk about that, just that process real quick.
Okay, yeah, the bridge aid that comes through our office, those projects are required to be done by September 1st, and then the reimbursements come in through us. So we received most of those. We have a couple that we're working through right now with the townships on. Our staff goes through, reviews those, inspects the sites, and then confirms all the financial information in it. So usually it's tough to get that ready for this meeting when we get them on September 1st. Generally, we would look to do a special meeting, they're usually pretty brief, just before the county board educational meeting. I know Sam had also mentioned that we might have some discussion on some equipment funding. So we'll discuss that with Lance, Sam, and get with Chair Pfeiffer on that one to get that together. But I would anticipate just before the county board educational meeting, we can get together and then just go through those, see if you guys have any questions, and get the approval ready for county board.
So our educational meeting for this month is scheduled for the 18th. So if you can pencil in some time before that, we'll confirm that as we get closer. That being said, go ahead, Mr. Robinson.
Just like to point out that there is a fiber lighting ceremony scheduled for 1 p.m. on October 2nd with a leather camp unit with Bug Tussle to be at the Cronin-Water Village Hall. And given the fact that this committee is a standing committee that oversees broadband, you should all be getting an invitation to that. And if there are enough members, you may need to post it as a potential meeting, but it would be at 1 p.m. on the 2nd at the Cronin-Water Village Hall.
Thank you for that. With that, we're up for item 8, which is adjournment. Who'd like to make the motion? Motion by Dickinson, second by Jensen. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, and keep an eye on your email for announcement of that special meeting.